Huh. It's St. Patrick's Day, the day of the leprechaun, so I'm taking over this cold open. You see, my man Shadow's been kidnapped, so it's up to me and dead wife to go rescue him, while Wednesday and Nancy take a little bit of a road trip of their own. Let's face it, it's the most boring, drawn-out road trip you ever did see. On American Gods, Season 2, Episode 2, The Beguiling Man. Whoa! Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of American Gods. So yes, as always, spoilers are coming up, and I will spare you all from any more Irish accents. Alright, so hope all of you are well. I'm actually going to kick off this review with a couple of little announcements. First off, last week in my opening, I totally mispronounced Neil Gaiman's last name. I said Gaiman, it's pronounced Gaiman, and you would think that someone named Darren Jakes, who would often have his name mispronounced, might be a little bit more on top of these things. So, my apologies. It was late last week when I was reviewing, so just a little off my style. So, I will be more on top of that. Second bit of news is American Gods has already been renewed for Season 3, and they have named a new showrunner, Charles Chick Egley, who's worked on Hemlock Grove and The Shield. So he is he's going to be taking over next season. Maybe see if they can clean some stuff up. We'll get into that. Thirdly, it has been requested that because I tend to be a little bit verbose in my reviews, a loquacious lad am I talk a lot for a long time. Hellcost, one of our viewers, as well as a few others, have brought up the idea of maybe an index, a way to sort of possibly fast forward through to some of the points that are more interesting to you all, if you don't want to hear me laboring on about other points. So, if you click down into the description below, there should be an index. That is my plan. I'm hoping that that all works out. So yes, look down in the description. I'm going to set up a little index. I'll break down into chunks of what's going on and what I'm talking about with quick time codes. So if I'm talking about something that you're like, yeah, D, I get it. Don't need to keep going on. I only got so much time. You can click straight to the scene of the week or any other particular points that I have listed down there. So, see if we can get this going. If this is a big thing, I will keep this up for all further reviews. So, with that being said, let's kick off this week, The Beguiling Man, Episode 2 of this season. And I was not extremely excited about it. Look, there were some interesting story points wrong. We definitely got some information. There were some beautiful scenes and moments. There was great camera work. There was great shots. There's a shot with Salim when he is down praying. There's some great, beautiful close-up camera work. The color composition, especially in that scene where when we have Laura laying down in the field of flowers and Sweeney coming up and sitting down and how his jacket is matching the color of the flowers there. I mean, there were some really pretty shots. There was some great camera work done. And yet, I was kind of bored with this episode. The storytelling is a little bit more rote, is a little bit more standard. Season 1 had a lot of you know, we had our opening narration by Mr. Ibis here that was talking about coming to America. We had a lot of those openers introducing the gods in. We had some great just stop-action animation. We had some big dream sequences and stuff. And again, we had like the god stuff last week, and that was totally cool. And there was a couple little moments here, but there seems to be just a lacking of imagination. And I understand we got a change of showrunners, we got a change of storytelling. I'm fine with a shift of that. I'm just saying that there was something missing from this episode. And also, stuff seemed to be really dragged out. There were some moments that just took too long. They were just, again, it's like wagon training. You're just stretching things out. Chernobog's whole discussion about Zora missing, dying, and the effect that is, and what he's going to have to do. That speech just, again, it just seemed to labor a little bit on. There was a shot when young Shadow, was in the church after his mom had died, and it was closed up, and there were some great composition moments, but then that last scene just seemed to drag on just a little bit too much. There were just, and even some of the storytelling. Wednesday's and Nancy's trip, while kind of some funny little moments, Wednesday getting Nancy a bucket of chicken, and just Nancy getting so pissed off about that. They get the funny moments, sure, but all of that just seemed to be filler. And that's sort of what the episode felt like. So a lot of the central focus of this episode dealt with Shadow being tortured by Mayhem. I'm sorry, Mr. Town. But yes, actor Dean Winters does play Mayhem in all those Allstate commercials, so that's the first thing I thought when I saw him. But of course, he is no stranger to big shows. He played in Oz over on HBO, a bunch of stuff. I mean, the guy's been working for ages, but it just was kind of funny to see him being tortured. Then Mayhem's face sort of pops up there. So it was fun, but I have to say it did kind of pull me out of it just a little bit. And in fact, a lot of this whole sequence had me wondering, really in the sense is, why? Why is Shadow being tortured? Why is he just being taken out as a threat, or just a cursory character just to throw Wednesday off his game? Now, the reasoning given, I suppose, is it seems to be that Town wants some information. That world wants some information. Why is Odin putting so much trust into this nobody character? So that seems to be the overriding excuse or reasoning why we have all of this questioning. What, of course, we're really doing here is giving a chance to have some little flashbacks back into Shadow's youth, which was very interesting. Again, it starts out with a coming to America, which was not something we were necessarily expecting with Shadow. Yes, he's an American, but he's been traveling the world most of his life, living in France with his mom. So, in a way, as this opens up, he is also coming to America, much like the old gods themselves, the stories all being told in Season 1. And he has a great relationship with his mom. That's definitely, they've got a close relationship. They talk a lot. They've got a lot of connections of almost like, not so much of a mother-son, though that relationship is there, but in some way sort of an equals, a teacher. And I think that might weigh in a lot more into kind of Shadow's reason for being, his raison d'etre. If we want to go in with the French, since that's where he's coming from. But we had that opening talking about liberty. This is what liberty is, and was a Roman god, and then was given by the French over, and through a lot of this, the mom is talking a lot about serving liberty, how liberty doesn't recognize them because of the color of their skin, that it sees things differently, and in fact, there's a lot of sort of how Shadow's mom is speaking with him through a lot of this, is kind of in all of these larger storybook tones. In some ways, it's talking about him as a black man being judged by, what they see, that they've got predisposed stories in their head, and we are just fitting in the role that they expect us to play. But it's all very obtuse. So it does feel like she's talking about bigger and larger things. She's also constantly talking about his light. That he has this great light inside, which is interesting, of course, because that's what Laura is following, the literal light that she sees inside and coming out of Shadow. So we're reinforcing a lot of these ideas, that she gave him the light, continues to give him the light every day. That sort of, this is his goodness, his properness. She's trying to train him to be a good human being. Not a lot to talk about the dad, though. And in fact, when it does get brought up, the mom sort of pushes away, just says that he is dead and gone, but doesn't really dwell onto him. So, I mean, there's some mystery there. But as for the mom, I wanted to hit what we were talking about, Liberty there. She does refer to Liberty as someone that she is serving, that she is spreading the message of. So I am wondering if, in effect, Shadow's mom is a priestess of liberty. And that is sort of the God connection that we have. Because, again, with a lot of the terminology, the light inside, the bigger verbose words that the mom is using, it's speaking its shadow in a much bigger, larger sense. Then, of course, as the mom is dying, we have our visit by an unknown individual flipping coins, a coin that flips gold to silver and gold to silver. Hypnotic, a gift to Shadow. We don't get to see that, but I think it's easily implied that that is Wednesday already visiting Shadow when he was younger. It's something that Mayhem, I'm sorry, Mr. Town, refers to later on, before his end, when he holds up a coin himself. And this is a token from a relic, basically referring to Wednesday. So in some ways, referring to that coin. And of course, we have a lot of coin repetition terminology being used right here, especially Sweeney and Laura. That this seems to be some sort of reference. So my wonder is did Wednesday sleep with Shadow's mom? Or is Shadow being watched over by this priestess and trained because Shadow's past is a little more complex? There's a lot of implying that Shadow is a god or has some sort of deity, power, ancestry within him. Is Wednesday his father, and that's sort of why he has brought him in? Or is Wednesday just recognized a demigod, if not a full god, in the midst of knowing that that power is useful? So throughout all of this, we're getting these stories of Shadow, of him being raised, of returning to America, and becoming a protector, in a way, willing to fight for the little guy. So we're establishing a lot of Shadow's past, but also raising some interesting questions. I do have to say, one of the scenes that I think was supposed to be very important in showing the difficulties that have Shadow coming into America, returning, basically when he goes out for his walk and gets jumped by all of the gangsters, neighborhood people, I don't know. And that's the problem that I had with that scene. I understand that, again, this is designed to show the difficulty of him integrating in with America, that there is a challenge, that there is something different than him, and then, of course, running off and being grabbed by the cops as he's basically trying to escape with his own property and getting nabbed with the assumption that he has stolen it or something along those lines. And that's the problem that I had with that whole particular sequence, is because it deals with a lot of just broad stroke stereotypes. And while it does play into this idea of the difficulty of him coming in, and then at least mom discussion about how the cops see things, again, referring back to Liberty being blind because of the color of skin and therefore is going to judge them differently. They've got a story already written in your head. It was just so, like I said, stereotypical. Why did these guys jump? He was just walking down the street. He didn't knock them. He didn't seem to, even necessarily, he was dressed a little different, but didn't totally stand out as weird. So it was just, it seemed a very forced scene in order to get that idea pulled across. So there was just one that, again, it's just something that pulled me out of it. Didn't seem like a genuine tale. It seemed very forced, and like I said, very just sloppy, broad strokes symbolism. And going after Shadow, of course, we have the team up of Mad Sweeney and Laura, who have really worked well together. I have to say, the two of these do have an interesting dynamic. Normally, most of the time, they have the energy there. Today, like I said, it just felt a lot of this was drawn out. We have a lot of the same back and forth between Sweeney and Laura. She wants to be alive. She has his coin. He wants his coin back. It's his way of luck. It's just we run over this bit of storytelling, so hitting all of these points again seems to be a bit repetitive. Again, we do have some interesting little bits of info we get. Laura seems to be getting weaker. Maybe just drawn out. Maybe she's just, those parts are just decaying there. Certainly at several points seems to be willing to head towards death if she can't get to Shadow. And we had, again, that beautiful whole visually striking scene inside the giant field of flowers, which was just very pretty. And we get a little bit of insight into Sweeney's world, traveling through the Horde. I guess this is a new little bit, how they can get from one place quickly to another. Goes through a very, very scary place. We don't really see much. It's just implied this is a frightening place. When they pop out, Laura's like, oh, that's horrible, that's awful. And of course, they're screaming and twirling, and so we don't really catch a whole lot about that. And then that was one thing that was a little disappointing to me, too. Was simply because it was like, oh, the Horde, oh, we're going to see something new. This is going to be our visual treat of the episode. And oh, well. But they do get to catch up to Shadow. He's moving fast, because he's on a train. And I have to say, I was expecting, since they were dragging things out so long, that Laura was going to hit the train, and then Sweeney was going to jump, and with his bad luck, his coin now being away, he was going to miss it. Didn't happen. We did get a nice little sort of fight sequence, which was, again, well done, interesting, cool. Definitely see Laura just doing damage, and Sweeney having a great time fighting, as he does. That was all, again, very cool, very nice, very over the top. Liked it. But town got taken out pretty quick. Just hit by the door. I mean, yeah, it's a big heavy steel door and down, but I don't know. I guess I expected more of a fight from him. I don't really know who Town is. Is he a god? Is he a demigod? He said that he serves World and the new gods. Maybe he's another priest himself. That could possibly be it. But yeah, maybe it doesn't really matter, because again, he's gone. His whole purpose was just to sort of poke Shadow and make things seem scary and give us a reason for some Shadow backstory. But ultimately, it didn't go anywhere. Ultimately, yes, in some ways, all of Sweeney's and Laura's mission was completely for naught. I mean, in some ways, Wednesday does say to Laura when she's at the very beginning of the episode, like, we need to get to Shadow, we need to save him. And Wednesday's like, yes, I do care about him a lot. But if you're so enamored, if it means you so much, go get my spear, which is the mission they're supposed to be on. And when you do that, go get Shadow. If they'd just gotten the spear, then everything would have been fine. Would not have had this same kind of pointless loop, because Wednesday already had a plan. And that was the one kind of fun, interesting thing with seeing how Wednesday operated in the midst of the rest of this episode. Which is why it is our Scene of the Week for this week. And that is Betty's demise, or really that brief scene where Betty is imbued with the power to stop a train. And I really think that that's what Wednesday's doing. When we get that shot and our Grand Cadillac is parked on top of the railroad tracks. And instantly, we understand. That was all of Wednesday's bit. Again, much like Season 1, how very early on in the season he blows out those little bit of seeds, the daisy thing. God, I can't remember. Puffball. They're called different things. But sends that little bit out, and by the end of the season, that's what has stirred up the clouds, and that's what's stirred up the storm, so that Odin can then call forth the lightning and take out all of Technology Boy's little dancing minions as sacrifices to Easter. Much in the same way, a very shortened version of that we have here, and that is Wednesday, already knowing where town is going, his whole plan on this little trip was to go and park the car on the railroad tracks and take out the train and save Shadow. So whether or not Laura and Sweeney went on their trip to go save Shadow first instead of going to get the spear, that's totally unnecessary. They should have just gotten the spear. Wednesday was going to take care of it. And that's just, again, that's just the beauty in this sequence. Not to mention just talking to his car. You're bored of steel, but you're not the same as who you were. You are the power of a berserker, and you're going to take out this. I mean, just big, flowery, blessing, godlike language. Again, very much like an old temple or ceremony or all of that. It was just a beautiful bit of imbuing of strength and power to take out this train and thus be able to save Shadow. So, again, just a cool moment. Not to mention we've got Nancy already upset. Valhalla? Ain't going to Valhalla. I'll see you in Cairo. And takes off, which I guess maybe the next place that we're going to be. So hopefully that means we'll catch up with Ibis. So anyway, just, again, brief little moment, but I think it made the episode. Alright, just a couple of small things. One, the power of belief and how important that is for gods. We have Chernobog going over this with Zorya, and one of the reasons why he is so upset about her passing is because there are no more she has no more believers. She has no more worshippers. Therefore, this death is permanent. The power of belief, the power of someone imbuing the gods with the belief, that's what powers them, and that's what keeps them alive. Had she had that type of support network, it seems to imply, at least here, that breath could have been brought back into her. Lacking that, that is one of the reasons Chernobog is so upset. Not only is she dead, but because there are no more worshippers, because there are no more believers in her, that death is now permanent. And it's important to hit on because, I mean, again, while this is sort of a recurring theme, we even had that last episode when Laura was talking to Shadow Moon and he was saying, what do you believe in? I believe in Odin, and I want to believe in you, Laura, but this is where that life, that imbuement is followed by belief. Selim uses that to his advantage with the Jinn, I think, very well, because, of course, the Jinn sort of, I think he likes Selim, but he wants to protect him, but also knows that he is completely unprepared for any battle of gods that may be going on. Selim's still just a person. However, Selim also understands that belief is what powers the Jinn, and because Selim says, I believe in you, and that's what you need, don't you? That gives the Jinn a great reason to bring Selim on, because as a god himself, that belief, that worshipper, is what's going to power his strength. So it's brought up, it will continue to be brought up, but I really like that moment of Selim kind of turning that around on the Jinn and going, yeah, but I got what you need, so you're going to bring me along with you. We had a few more things that sort of implied Shadow's divinity I wanted to touch on. One, Siddhartha, the book he's reading, published in 1951, is about spiritual self-discovery. So the fact that he is reading that, very appropriate. Also something that Town hits upon, that there is no record of Shadow's family. Outside of his mom and his dead wife. Dead wife! There is no other record about Shadow's family, which, while Town implies that that means that he is a bastard, just born out of wedlock, amongst everything else, the fact that there is no larger connection for him does seem to imply, I think, a little bit something more spiritual. Not to mention that his mom, while she was dying, is inside on the phone talking to someone about watching over Shadow, taking him back. Who is she talking to? If there is no other extended family, who could she be calling? The fact that she is talking to someone means that there is a larger picture. And yeah, Dad may not be dead, or that Dad may not actually be Shadow's dad. Oh yeah, and the new gods. We got World teasing with Bilquis about choosing a side. Just, again, kind of an unnecessary scene, I think, really, as was the one with Technology Boy trying to track down media. This is just our transition to introduce new media, which is just a lot of wasted time, I think. Just, okay, I mean, whatever. At least they didn't take too much time about it. And we should see her next episode. New media. Oh, and I would be remiss without mentioning that awesome moment with Mama G at the beginning of the episode, where Wednesday wants to know, is she with her? Can he count on her swords? And she's like, yes, I'll be lopping off heads and drinking of bloods and you know, submitting souls to the afterlife, assuming I can switch weekends. Because, of course, she works at a hotel. Anyway, it was just one of those just great moments of a god like, yes, I should be doing these large, giant, beautiful, impressive things. As long as I can switch weekends and be able to get that time off. Yeah, okay, that's the only way I can fit that into my schedule. Just a nice moment. Alright, well, I think I will go ahead and wrap this up. I think I have talked with long enough. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me with these reviews. And as usual, please go ahead and like, subscribe, put some comments down in the section below. You could check out some other videos. Twitter and Instagram, Darren Jakes, all that stuff. Don't miss any of it. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.